Hello my brothers and sisters of the Order, welcome back to the Order. I'm Celtic Templar, and welcome back to another History in Firearms. And today, y'all, we're actually getting one of my favorite handguns in history, and that is none other than our infamous 1911, made in the United States. And such, this gun has actually been used since, well, 1911 as it's designed. Now, the 1911 Colt is not the first design that Browning or Colt had first designed. It was first in 1907. Problem is the 1907 had problems being everything. It had problems being it was a non-usable design since the barrel was too long, and also because of the fact it even had hammerless design. The firearm itself does have significant problems. But that's one of the major reasons. It has been used since 1911 and pretty much still used in the modern day present. The firearm has actually been used in many wars such as World War I, World War II, as well as Korea, Vietnam, Cold War conflicts, all throughout the entire, usage. In other words, this gun has seen many conflicts out of which we have actually somewhat forgotten about. In other words, pretty much in Indonesia, parts of China, as well, many other nations. So yeah, this gun has even been seen in parts of Cuba, the Cuban Revolution, Bay of Pigs invasion, Mexico, South America, you name it. This gun has actually been there, and it's actually been used by pretty much, well, because of the Lend-Lease program and such. These guns have actually been, sent to said foreign countries in order to help them fight against certain dictatorships and such. Now, this has also been seen in the Iraq War and as well the War on Terror, and in fact it's even been seen in the modern day battle of the Syrian conflict. So, yeah. Now, the one major thing I had to put out here, its designer, John Browning, designed this gun in the form to have it help for the United States military. Now, the manufacturers was always Colt, since its design, although pretty much John Browning and Colt were forced to work together, so that's how it was meant to be. Now, there were two designs to this, such as the 1911 model being the M1911 and the M1911A1 being manufactured in 1924. Now, people ask, Templar, what's the difference between the 1911 and the 1911A1? Well, I'm glad you asked. That would be this, the grip safety. Now, people ask, what is a grip safety on a 1911? Well, it's simple. Now, this gun is fully empty. There's no mag. So yeah, it's a dry fire and all that. I'm just trying to prove my point. When it comes to the grip safety, it does the following. You're supposed to put your hand on it and then pull the trigger, like so. Now, let me show you another form of dry fire. If it comes to this, a gun can't fire if the safety is not engaged, meaning like this. And this gun, I don't even have this thing on safety. Now it's on safety, now it's off. Look, it's not going to fire unless you put your hand on it like so and pull the trigger. That is actually why I love this design. So yeah, this is an M1911A1. And these were actually used from World War II into even in the modern day. Pretty much its mass is around, I want to say 39 ounces empty, and pretty much its length is 8.5 inches. Though it depends on which design. Because, one, there are multiple barrel lengths, such as the government model, which is about 5.03 inches, commander model, which is I want to say around 4.25 inches, and then there is the officer model, which is 3.5 inches. Now, many people ask, well, Templar, what is this? Well, this is the government issue. In other words, this is governmental issue, like GI made, meaning this is mainly meant for United States military use. Now, it always fires 45 ACP or 45 government, which is known as the ball ammunition. Ball ammunition is very dangerous, and you shoot somebody with this, they will go down. However, the rounds I use in my magazines for this are always a self-defense style bullet, which is mostly made out of brass. It is actually the federal personal defense like this design I use. So reason being is one major reason. One, the bullets are actually nearly identical to the ballpoint ammo. Let me show you real quick. Because literally, I want you all to take a look at this. Now this is a dummy round. It has no primal type blasting cap, so yeah. They look exactly nearly familiar. That's why I decided to use it. Now people would automatically ask, Templar, I have actually seen other government 45 ACP bullets. Why can't I get a cheaper one? No, I tried that once, and unfortunately what it did is it pressed down the head of the said bullet, meaning I'm not going to fire those rounds out of this. And the fact is, it would even jam the gun and force it not to cycle. So that's the major reason why you got to actually get the correct type of bullet. So that's why I always go with a federal issued design version. The federal personal defense, pretty much that's the best one I can go with. These always come in the said 7 to 8 capacity, depending on the magazine that you're using. Now I have seen people even make these in 22 long rifle or in even 9mm, but I always prefer it in 45 ACP or 45 auto. For one major reason, it looks a lot, it just feels right. And one major reason why I always rather prefer 45 ACP or 45 auto is because of its stopping power in the said human being. Now, many people automatically say, but Templar, 9mm has penetrating power. Yeah, that's the problem though. Penetrating power means it just goes through the guy. 45 ACP is known to be like, have more like a shotgun effect, rather than like that of a bullet effect. Meaning it's like, well, getting hit by a shotgun almost, only in the form of a pistol. Now that's the best way I can explain it for some of those who don't know the difference between 45 ACP and 9mm. So yeah. Its action is a short recoil operation, meaning its recoil system is like that when you actually, well, fire the gun. Every time you pull the trigger, guess what? It's going to pretty much have that short recoil, which it does, and that I kind of do like. Now, the muzzle velocity is around 830 feet per second, so that's actually a really good design form. Its effective range is around 50 meters or 160 feet. Its feed, as I said, is 8 to 7 box-fed magazine. Now, there are other countries that did copy from this gun. That would be the majority being of Poland, Belgium, and Germany being the top favorites I have to put out there that actually came near identical to this but never did fully develop them. There are also Czechs, there's even the infamous China that tried to copy this in the 1950s. It did not succeed. And as well, there are also several others in parts of Eastern Europe. And as well, even did also the Soviet Union with their Tokarev 33. Problem is, that did not exactly work out so well when it came down to their form of system. Now, I want to put this out here. These guns have also been used by the United States military and police forces for such a long time. And many of you might ask, why? Well, simple. Would you rather go with a 9mm gun, or would you rather go with a 45 ACP style gun? And the fact is, many cops rather still prefer the 1911 rather than going to a Beretta or even a Glock. And the fact is, the United States military didn't want to go away from the 1911. This can especially be seen to the fact that even when the M9 Beretta was standard issue, majority of soldiers rather prefer using the 1911 rather than using, well, a said Beretta. In fact, they trained with this gun, so guess what? They're going to use this gun. And the fact is, the police force had thousands of hundreds of these. I have actually known a few of my old buddies from the San Antonio Pipes and Drums. We actually who actually carried these things while they were marching. And these were police officers and such. They were retired and such. And he always carried this on him, especially even when he had his kilt on. And the thing is, many soldiers rather prefer using this gun because of that stopping power. You know, people automatically say, but Templar, isn't it better to have the penetrating power of a 9mm? Yes, but there is a problem. 9mm has been known to just zip right through the guy, and while 45 ACP, even though it does go through him, there is the fact that it's gonna knock him on his ass with just one shot. In fact, many people also do ask, but Templar, what is the major horrifying iniquity about these guns? What are its pros and cons? One of its cons is the fact I've actually seen on in-range that if you dump this in mud, it will jam. That's why you don't do this. The majority reason why it probably ends up jamming is, one, because of this big giant chunk here, which that's the major reason. However, though, another reason is also where your hammer is. Now, there are a lot of idiots out there that actually do something really stupid. Now, this is no ammunition is in this, but there is really something really stupid that people actually do. They end up putting a magazine in here and cocking back the hammer like that to have a bullet in. Now, as I said, this thing isn't loaded, but never do this. Don't even try it. Because one, this is very dangerous. What they actually do is they hold the hammer, and this is very dangerous. They try and, like, literally, this is actually very hard to do, and you gotta be very careful with it. They actually put it on the hammer system. Literally, they just, you don't do this. This is very dangerous. In fact, in some films, one of the most infamous being We Were Soldiers, we actually see Sam Elliott pulling back the hammer. That means that he did that. That is something you don't do with these guns. Now, I hear many people already saying, Templar, oh, but Templar probably is a lot better for safety mechanisms. And the fact is, I hear y'all, it's probably best for safety, but the problem is I don't recommend you doing that. Reason being, it's very dangerous. Now, some people would automatically say, but Templar, just pulling back the hammer and then locking it, that easily works too. I really wouldn't recommend doing that unless you're in the open field, such as even police officers even worry about this happening. So, yeah, I'm not going to leave it on either, so yeah. But why don't we actually see me taking this piece apart, and you'll see how much I actually do like about those guns, shall we? Alright, y'all. Now, many of you are wondering, how do you take apart this gun properly and such, in order to fully assemble it? Well, what you're going to do is the following. One, always make sure the gun is unloaded, as in such it is. So I can see. Let me try and get in there. No bullet in any of the chambers. Dry fire. What we must first do is push the said button right here. Which this is probably the hardest part about pretty much taking this thing apart. As y'all saw, this likes to launch because it has a heavy spring system into the side gun. So yeah, that's the probably only hardest part. Next, what we must do is pretty much pull this back into a certain position, such as the second notch. Push the said piece out, like so. And there we have it removed. Next, what we must do is the following. By pulling the spring back. Then, here comes a little bit of a hard part. It's by taking out this piece here. This is a piece that locks the gun in place. And there we go. Pulling out the gun's parts are not easy, but in such they are somewhat how you had to actually clean this type of gun in a certain way and manner. As you're going to understand, this design of firearm is of the hammer quality version, which is kind of why these guns I kind of do like. Now we have to make sure the hammer is back when it comes to putting this thing back together, because it does make it a little easier at putting it back together. So how do we put it back together? Well, simple as follows. Put our said barrel in place. Make sure you get the locking system in, which this part is a little difficult sometimes. You just gotta find the correct position to put it in. Next, what we gotta do now, put this head locking bolt spring in, which now, here comes another hard part to do. Let's put this gun in position. Now, this part is very hard and difficult, but you do somehow sometimes get used to it. The problem is trying to find the correct position. As you can tell, there we go. Not the easiest thing to do. Now, what we must do now is get it back into position with a certain area to properly put this in place. Then you have to try and put it right about to the said systematical form of locking it. And then we gotta push it in like so. Which this part is kind of difficult. And there we go. There. As it's fully in place. Now, what we gotta do is the hardest part. Putting this back in. Without pulling back the hammer. And there we go. Fully operational, and it's fully workable. I hope you all liked taking a look at how to take these things apart and reassemble them. You know, as I said, the most major problem is removing the spring system, which this you got to make sure pointing it down when you're doing this, even though it is a little harder. It otherwise the thing's just going to launch somewhere. That's the only problem. Now, one thing I do have to point out here about these. While actually I was running with this thing, I didn't feel that much fatigue. The only problem I did have problem with was aiming. The one major problem with aiming this with every pistol, you gotta aim a little higher from where you're wanting to hit. And now, another weird history about these guns is also the fact that this actually, the 1911, was the cheaper quality version of the America's newer class system. In other words, this was a cheaper quality pistol compared to that of making an industry of Lugers. That's right, America was real close. Like we were this close to manufacturing a Luger in the United States that fired 45 ACP. I'm kind of pissed that John Berry and Colt made this thing, but at the same time I love it because one, we can't think of the American GI without a 1911. We can't think of a soldier in Vietnam without the 1911 because one, these are the iconic pistol in the United States military. Now I do want to put this out here. When the United States decided on this patent, they found out it was extremely cheaper, but the problem is it was a little heavier. And that's probably why they wanted something a little heavier, because they thought that they could actually pistol whip somebody. Now there is a weird idiot rumor that that was one of the weird idiot rumors. No, that was not one of them. The reason was, I am told, is that they wanted it like that because they thought it could actually keep it a little more stable when it comes to firing it. In other words, less recoil. I only get a little bit of recoil, so I kind of do like that. But the problem is, the weight is kind of a problem. So, yeah. Now, there is a weird idiot myth, also, that George S. Patton had a pearl gold version of a 1911. No, he did not. He only had single-action Colt revolvers, like that of an Army or a Cavalry version. So, maybe you will ask, but Templar, didn't he... We saw in the movie G.I. Joe, the second movie of G.I. Joe, and he had this. No. That is a movie. That is not based in reality. Now, people would automatically also get these guns in different versions. Me, I chose the old World War II version, because one, who does not like that look? I ask you, who would not love this design look? Now, there are some that I do love, like what cops and many police officers, and as well SWAT teams, and as well even the United States military love about this, is the fact of the later models that we got sometime in the 70s and 80s, is the fact of a rail mount system where we have a little bit of a red dot sight, or I should say a little laser pointer, meaning we have ourselves correct on-site shooting. Now, people say, oh, Templar, you should have got that for this. I know, but I didn't want to. I don't know why. But yeah, is this my personal home defense gun? Most definitely. This gun perfectly fits the build for design forces. And the fact is, if I did even also get the one with the for laser sight on the bottom, I know I would quite possibly end up probably protecting my house a little bit better, but still. Now, we can understand why police forces love this thing, especially when it came to moving in. The gun was perfect. It was short enough, but yet had enough oomph power to put the bad guy on his butt. And the fact is, cops didn't want to get rid of these. In fact, even when I was young, even during the early 2000s, majority of cops used the 1911 rather than the M9 Beretta. However, we started to switch more to the Beretta and then towards the Glock, but old-fashioned Marines, cops, and such, they still rather prefer this bad boy because of one major reason. It's a lot faster and a lot easier to use. Now, one major thing also when it comes to using this gun is the following when it's unloaded. Now, I'm not going to use a mag for this because one, that's a little dangerous, so yeah. What you have to do is the following. Say, for example, you're out of ammunition, and guess what? It stays open. You gotta release your mag, then put a new one in, and you can either pull back the hammer like I do, or what some people do is actually hit this little release lever right here. So, like so. And it's ready to go. I don't know why I don't like to do that, because one, I'm kind of scared of doing that sometimes. But, yeah. So, how would I rate this gun? I would have to rate it a 9 out of 10 for its badass type of force. But, yeah, why don't y'all see me firing it, and you'll see my point. Clear! Well, I hope y'all liked that video. Now, if any of y'all have any ideas of firearms I should be doing in history or have a history review on, please let me know in the comments below. I'll be happy to do so. Anyways, guys, it's been Celtic Templar. Hope to see y'all in the next one. And if any of y'all, as I said, have any type of firearms of history I should cover, please let me know in the comments below. I'll be happy to get right into them. Anyways, guys, this has been Celtic Templar. Have a great day.